Composing Gloves here, and this is the 10th video in the Harmor from the Ground Up tutorial series. And today we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, the Unison area. So Unison is really cool. However, you may want to limit it. You may decide to use a chorus later because it's less CPU intensive than the Unison. But Unison is cool because what it does is it makes basically it clones your 500. So we have the 516 or 513. I can't remember that number right now. But anyways, we have all those partial voices that are being additively generated, and this will clone those additively generated things, and using magic additive math equations and things, it will reintroduce it back into our signal or the output, and we will then hear our sound with more than one voice. So right now we have one voice, but if we turn it up, all of a sudden we've got this affected signal, and you can see we got these nice patterns going on here. So what's going on? And the reason I have this open is because I want to see the final output. This shows us our first voice, but not really our second and third and fourth and fifth. So if you clone those harmonics and you individually process them through your Unison 9 times, that's, what is that, 516 times 9, that's a lot. So that's why processing can get pretty intensive. So if that's a concern. Especially right now we're playing one note. And so if you were to do that with 2 notes and 3 notes and then 4, and before long you've got a mess going on. So we're going to use it on 3 right now. So this first slider controls, well, these are the modes. You can have different modes. We're going to leave it on classic for this beginning portion. So right now everything's at off. Panning controls how the different voices are spread in the stereo field. And it's not that much of a difference right now because there is no difference because we have no pitch variation. So let's talk about pitch variation first. Pitch variation is how far it can vary away from the original pitch. That is the cloned voice, and all the partials, keep that in mind. So it's basically like a detune. And you can see it vary away from, but it'll come back to, if we play it long enough. And so as you see, it's coming back to the original frequency and then doing it again. And so if we turn that way up, it can vary very far away from that fundamental tone. And you see it results in a mess. Now, if we have our pitch variation up a little bit and then we turn our panning on, you will hear those variable voices being spread in the stereo field. So that is how that works. Much more obvious when they're varying more. So we're going to leave it in mono for now. And then you have the phase. So all these different harmonics and voices can be phase randomized. Actually, I believe this is a rolling phase, so it changes the phase of the entire voice. And as you can see, this can really affect the overall texture. Phase becomes very important. And remember, this is one that, as you see, we get some really wonky shapes. Pitch variation does not affect. So this can also create a space for our panning, and we get those crazy looking shapes. And so we've covered phase before. Now you have these different modes. I guess let's cover alt first. So to do this, we're going to turn our phase off. So no phase variation. We'll do a little bit of pitch variation. We're going to go to a square wave. So there's our square wave. And we need to make a few elementary observations. So first, we notice that the wave is up, and then there is a little bit of space where it's crossing, and then it goes down, and a little bit of space between these square waves. You hit Alt, it'll inverse this. So it'll fill this entire space up. It'll inverse the gain, and it will make this one, well, I'll just show you. It's easier to show you, but just, as you can see, that little space is now the thing going up and down, and the gain has been inverted, the volume. If we do it with the saw wave, it inverts that little short spot where it has inverting a saw wave's gain is weird. But if we undo it by unclicking Alt, the gain is now uninverted. So that may be something that you want or desire. Now we're going to take a look at something that's a little, I can't really explain, but I could show you the patterns of what's going on. So we have classic. These are, well, I can tell you what they're doing. As it reintroduces it into our signal, we have all these options for how we want to reintroduce it. We can use different equations and things. And so these are just different options and equations. Hertz is a special value, which we'll talk about at the end. It's actually labeled special. And so let's do classic. And we'll turn our pitch variation all the way up so we can see the patterns, or at least up a lot. So that is what you're going to set these by ear, but you can see some sort of a pattern we got going on here. We go to blurred. Sounds quite a bit different. Go to uniform. We got nice little rectangular squares, I guess more uniform. I don't know. And then we have this random. So they've probably got some random operators in there that just insert values on how to variate the pitch and panning and spread and phase. Now the phase will only be heard when you hit your note because that's where the phase is. So once you've set your phase, that'll be the tone for the rest of the note. And then this last one's Hertz. I believe this looks at it weighted. So Hertz normally is assumed that it's a linear scale. That's what I used to think anyways. But I've learned that in this context, it is a weighted scale. An octave looks at things linearly because, you know what? I'm not 100% sure why. But if you don't know what a linear versus logarithmic scale is, it's basically a scale that follows a line. So if we started here and go across, that's our linear scale. Logarithmic would go whoop, and it's actually right here. So you see the difference between C. If you could actually see C2, it would be a 40 hertz. If we could get there. But if you double your hertz value, you've gone up an octave. So C1 to C2 is only 20 hertz. That's the difference between them. And then from C2 to C3 is 80 hertz. So you have 40. So you just doubled. And it doubles continually as we go up till we get from like 10K to 20K is like this ridiculously huge spectrum, which is technically an octave difference. So it's logarithmic. So it goes up dramatically. Hertz looks at your pitch like that. It looks at the unison spread like that. So it weights it for you. Here it looks rather linear though. So this is what's confusing me, because if we go to our Hertz mode on our octave and we turn our unison off, we get this madness, which is totally linear. And as you can see, it's completely weighted linearly. Things get way compressed. It's weird. But if we go to Hertz, it spreads it out. This looks linear, but that's because our graph is being mapped. As you can see here, it is being mapped logarithmically. So if we make a linear scale on a logarithmic graph, it looks spread out in the upper ends because there's so much extra space. So that's what I believe the Hertz does to the spread on your unison. And it sounds pretty cool. So that's my guess on it. I used to have this backwards, and it's definitely not backwards, as a clear demonstration of the pitch option shows. And then the Hertz mode would look at it logarithmically. So it's quite a bit less noticeable on the octave and things. There are a few articulators we should probably look at though. So if we right click, so let's say we want our sound to have a huge pitch variation at the beginning, but we don't want it to stay that way. Well, you can right click, go to edit articulator. You're taking the unison, pitch, thickness, and you can put a note on and turn your envelope on and do something like that. And now it'll start on and turn off very rapidly. And you can see that the pitch variation is there, but it's turning the pitch variation off. So right now it's starting at the top. If we have it start right here, it does not have as much room. So the envelope turns it from here off. So that is what this option is. We have a few of them. We have, well, these two deal with this other option here. But there's also a unison index mapping, which is... I know it's in here. Harmonic unison pitch. So if we were to do something, what are we changing? Well, we're changing the pitch. So this is the whole partial thing. So here are our octaves, and you're familiar with an envelope like this, and you're just changing the amount of pitch variation that happens in each voice, whether it goes up or down or whatever it does. So that's one way of doing a thing. So just so you're aware of that envelope, there's another one in here. I'm sure of it. Unison phase. Oh, you could change the phase apparently. This is one I have not messed with. We should probably turn our phase. So you could create some interesting phase relationships using that. If you have any questions, again, drop them in the comments. Subscribe because you are awesome, and have a blessed day.